And again, he was a director at the time in which all this was happening with Sam Malone. And matter of fact, if you believe what the media is reporting, he was signing off on the checks, the invoices. But that's what directors do. That's what they do. And, of course, his name is Tony Parrott, and he is no longer the director of the Metropolitan Sewer District. He's now somewhere else safe, moved on with his life. But he's a brother, African-American. Sam Malone, African-American. Wimber, African-American. What the hell? You tell me. What is going on? Nathan Ivey with you, broadcasting live from the city of Cincinnati. Back with more.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to ditch the car and start rollerblading to work.
I look ridiculous.
You look ridiculous!
You don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your organs on the black market.
Lie back. This is gonna hurt.
Yeah, that hurts.
You don't need to rent out your apartment to drifters.
I made a fire with the wood in your bedroom.
That's my dresser!
And your closet door.
You just need an internet connection. Don't get left behind. Start your personal savings plan with the tips and tools on feedthepig.org. That way, you don't need to sell all your belongings and live in a commune.
These dungarees belong to all of us now, Tom.
Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Now back to the show.
I have to make this point. I got to make this point. I can't let this go past me. The first promo that I played for you is about sexual awareness. It's an issue I think is very, very important. Nobody deserves to be brutalized. No one deserves to be a victim. No means no. But I do take some issue. I think they made a blunder in that. I think that the catchphrase that they were trying to make popular is that if you don't get it in terms of consent, then you don't get it. And I think therein lies their problem, is because on one hand, while you are trying to raise awareness about the victimization of so many people who fall prey to sexual assaults, you're also objectifying sex in of itself. If you don't get it, then you don't get it. If you don't get it as in terms of consent, then you don't get it in terms of sex. And I think that objectifying sexuality on some levels is a part of the issue. You know, I don't know. That's just how my brain is hearing it this morning. And I've heard, of course, many times that we played it here on the Nathan Ivey Show, but it's the first time that I kind of listened to it and thought that. I don't know. Do you agree or disagree? I just could be off on a tangent. It happens. Good morning. Welcome back. Currently 7:49 a.m. in the Queen City as we broadcast live. The Nathan Ivey Show, brought to you by the good folks at Superlative Media. They do great work. And there was a recent poll. I got to tell you this because I think it's very important. And it brings out some of the hypocrisy. But there was a recent poll. It was a survey of 1,000 Ohioans. It was jointly conducted for the Ohio Media Project and the Inquirer. And it found something very, very interesting. What it found is that 18% of those who claimed that no religion, cited as their major concern issue, related that poverty and inequality were the big issue. And I'm not really sure if I jumbled that or not. I don't want to confuse you. But essentially what they found out is for people who did not identify as being very overtly Christian or religious, should I say, what they found is those individuals, the majority of those individuals found issues of poverty and inequality as being paramount in the state of Ohio. Conversely, those who self-identified as being religious and or Christian, those individuals, they did not. And so some people are trying to make an issue of it, kind of like, well, how is it that religious people, when asked what are the number one issues, they don't see poverty and inequality as number one? Isn't that hypocritical of religious folks? That's one way of reading it. The other way of reading it is that a lot of these people are very conservative, and these conservatives read things differently. Like, if you ask a conservative a question, many of them are going to look at it from what the perspective of what they think the government should be doing. So, for instance, they may take a question about, what are their top issues as what are the top issues that they think the government should address. And it's very, very interesting. I mean, I've often called out Christians and folks like that because when it comes to abortion, you have a lot of them that will try to convince a woman that, she should never have an abortion, that in their opinion, it is tantamount to murder, or that in their opinion, is going to be a sin, or whatever their opinion is. Okay. But my issue has always been those same individuals who are anti-abortion are also anti-welfare. And in a society where there are such huge gaps, between the haves and the have-nots, right? In a country, should I say, in which you have these incredible gaps of wealth and average income. In that world, it's awfully unfair for these people to moralize to you on one hand, okay, don't believe in abortion, don't have an abortion, it's not an option to you. However, when the child is born, they're anti the social safety net that it takes to back up those kind of, personal feelings. You know what I'm saying? You can't have it both ways. If it's about the child, then so is welfare. Like for me, I look at welfare as about families and kids. When I think about welfare, I don't think about like some welfare queen who is just having baby after baby after baby, spending, 20 years plus on the system. I don't think about that. With a boyfriend living with her who's serving fiends on the side in the parking lot, all that kind of stuff. I don't think about that. What I think about is those programs are touching children. They're providing sustenance to babies. That's what I think of. But that's very, very interesting. So if this, in fact, as some people see it, is true, many Ohio Christians are split over the poverty issue. And that's because a lot of Christians are so caught up with the politics of persecution. The politics of persecution. Like the Republican Party is really good at staging themselves and positioning themselves as being persecuted upon. So, for instance, on one hand, we see there's a lot it's the liberal media. Oh, the damn liberal media. They won't let conservatives' viewpoints out there. And when they do talk about conservatives, they always lie about them. Oh, it's the liberal media. It's the politics of persecution. That somehow the only sanctuary of common sense in the world of news is Fox News, because everywhere else, your viewpoint is going to be oppressed. But it works, and people believe it. Yeah, the politics of persecution as it relates to these Republicans. Remember the woman down in Kentucky who decided that even though it was her job to sign marriage certificates, that because of her personal religious viewpoints, which she brought to the job, she brought to the workplace and projected all over her job responsibilities, and staged a one-woman protest, even spent some time in jail. Because of her religious positions, she was being persecuted, right? She was forced to do something with her job that might put her at odds with God. With God, right? This is crazy. And, I mean, all over, you got these people playing this game, the politics of persecution. Christians are so caught up with themselves. That's why the poll is split. It's split because half the Christians are running around talking about how they're being persecuted. I can't exercise my religious beliefs because gays are getting married or some other nonsense. Get a great Christian community. We need you. We need you. But we don't need you to tell women what to do with their body or their fetus or whatever you want to call it, with their lifestyle. Mike writes, typical Cincinnati Enquirer with their practice of white supremacy. Same thing with Tracy Hunter. The Sam Malone and Liz Rogers incidents help foster the wealth inequality by race that plagues this region in country. Well, there certainly are some similarities here. I mean, Tracy Hunter, I thought that situation could have been investigated a lot better by local news. I think they took a very biased viewpoint when it came to Tracy Hunter, in that they didn't properly investigate the claims and the charges against her. And I mean, investigated with the same critical eye, skepticism, insight, and wit as we've seen, if you want to call it that, as we've seen the Cincinnati editorial board do on so many other issues. I mean, damn it, they spent more time investigating a $55,000 check than they did the claims or the veracity of the claims of the former Bush administration when he led this country into war, folks. And Liz Rogers, for folks who don't live in the city, well, in the city of Cincinnati, it's the same type of redevelopment and reconstruction that's happening in a lot of places, where you've got people now who are being drawn back to the center city, okay? And that's what it's all about. They want to make that an economic base and set it up in a sense that you got a lot of foot traffic. You got people that live and work and play downtown. And if they don't live downtown, then they've got a lot of accessibility with multiple lines of mass transit. I get it. And then also multiple venues for entertainment. Have you been downtown, Main Street? You know, all that? Listen, downtown Cincinnati has made a tremendous turnaround. A tremendous turnaround. You go down there on a Saturday night or so, where there's something that's really, really popping, if the weather's great, people are downtown walking around, eating, drinking, flirting, and all the other ings that go with it. Okay, I get it. I understand it. So between our downtown and our riverfront in the city of Cincinnati is a place called the Banks. Imagine it. You got the Paul Brown Stadium, and you also got the Great American Ball Park. That's where the Bengals and the Cincinnati Reds play respectively. Okay, you got two stadiums. And in between those two stadiums, you got I don't know how much land is between there. But you got some shops, some breweries, some places to eat. And one of the first black-owned business was a place that was owned by a black woman named Liz Rogers, and it was named Mahogany's, and they did soul food. And listen, I don't have enough time to go through all the details, but that was a damn sad time in Cincinnati. You had members of city council who at the time, Christopher Smitherman, who at the time was also the president of the NAACP. And what does that stand for? The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. But he didn't want to see this colored woman advance. Or he thought the deal was bad. Thought it was a bad deal. And he spent a lot of time in the media talking about it. A lot of time in the media talking about it. I believe he helped to poison the atmosphere against the success of that business, in my opinion. In my opinion, pardon me. That's my opinion. You might disagree. It don't matter. That's my opinion. Okay? Because there was so much chatter that was negative. I mean, you even had people like, my homegirl, Kathy Wilson, who I still call her out for this. The piece she wrote about Mahogany's, the piece that she wrote about Mahogany's and Liz Rogers was a straight up hatchet piece. And, it quite honestly was beneath whatever integrity she had built up, in my opinion. How do you review a restaurant and you've never gone to the restaurant? Never gone to the restaurant. But I guess that's her style now. I mean, she wrote a piece about me and Jerry Tolliver, after our time or at my former job ended. And she never contacted me and asked me, okay, Nate, let me get a quote. People don't do that anymore, I guess. You don't do quotes? It's ridiculous, man. I'm telling you, we live in the last days of common sense. That's journalism now? Got my name wrong? Everything. Oh, man. Woody writes, good morning, Chop Shop family. Hope you have all your fingers from last night. LOL. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Got all of mine. Hands, shoulders, knees, and toes, too. I got it all. Because I don't play with fireworks. And I've seen it. I did it when I was a kid. I shot the bottle rockets. I threw firecrackers. I mean, I can't even remember how